Christine Pitawanich with your weekly recap. We'll be catching you up on some of the biggest stories of the week. Our top story is the latest on the Border Protection agent who investigators say shot two people Thursday afternoon in southeast Portland. The Department of Homeland Security says the shooting was self-defense as federal agents tried to make a traffic stop involving who they say is a suspected Venezuelan gang member in the country illegally. DHS has identified the people involved as Luis Moncada and Yorlenis Zambrano Contreras. They say Moncada illegally entered the U.S. in 2022 and has been arrested for DUI and unauthorized use of a vehicle. DHS says the passenger, Zambrano Contreras, is from Venezuela and also in the country illegally. They say she was also involved in a prior shooting in Portland. DHS says both have ties to Trendagua, but as of this Friday afternoon, federal officials have not provided evidence of that. Both are still in the hospital and will be released to the FBI, which is the agency leading the investigation. Local leaders are calling on ICE to stop operations until a full and independent investigation takes place, with Portland Mayor Keith Wilson also calling for ICE to get out of the city, at least for now.
We know what the federal government says happened here. There was a time when we could take them at their word. That time is long past. That is why we are calling on ICE to halt all operations in Portland until a full and independent investigation can take place.
When a president endorses tearing families apart and attempts to govern through fear and hate rather than shared values, you foster an environment of lawlessness and recklessness. Trust is essential to maintaining community safety and the rule of law.
Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield says the state's Department of Justice will also open a formal investigation into the shooting. The last of the Oregon National Guard troops that President Trump tried to deploy to Portland will soon be going home. The U.S. military says they were formally ordered to demobilize. The official order from U.S. Northern Command came nearly a week after the president announced he'd abandon efforts to deploy the National Guard in Portland, Los Angeles, and Chicago. In September, Trump ordered 200 Oregon National Guard troops to help protect federal buildings in Portland following protests at the ICE facility. Another 200 members of the California National Guard were also called in. But instead of hitting the streets, those troops spent much of their time training at Camp Rylea on the coast and Camp Withegum in Happy Valley, while all the legal challenges played out in court. Local and state leaders accused the Trump administration of exceeding its authority. Then, in November, a federal judge issued a permanent injunction barring the president from deploying Guard troops to Oregon. Meantime, Multnomah County's district attorney is creating a new accountability around the county's Deflection program. In its first year, Multnomah County spent more than $8 million on that program. Law enforcement referred 520 people to Deflection, and just over 100 completed it, which means they followed through on a referral. Now, DA Nathan Vasquez plans to charge people who don't, quote, meaningfully engage with the program. Our Blair Best asked him what that would look like.
For me, what it really comes down to is the person actually taking some steps. Did they go to some meetings? Did they enroll in a detox center? There are lots of options, and I'm someone that believes there's a lot of different pathways to sobriety and to getting healthy, and so I'm not trying to be overly prescriptive and say it has to be this one way or the other. It's about allowing for many pathways to treatment.
You can watch the full interview with Vasquez streaming anytime on our free TV app, KGW+. And also, there is now a limit on how long someone can stay in a Portland-run shelter, and Mayor Keith Wilson is planning to kick some people out. It's an effort from the mayor's office to make sure people are working toward housing. In February, the city of Portland expects to ask between 80 to 90 people staying in city-run shelters to leave. Per Mayor Wilson, those who have been in a shelter for 120 days and not engaging with their caseworker must go. Exceptions to this rule include people with severe mental health challenges.
It's really important to know that nobody is being exited for failure to find housing. They will only be exited for not talking to their care coordinator or their service provider.
My 120 days was just up, and it was going to be in the winter, and I'm like, is it going to be me and a cat out in the corner?
Some city councilors are pushing back on the plan. They say having people go back onto the streets should never be the answer. And to Salem now, where Oregon Governor Tina Kotek is now doing a big 180 and asking lawmakers to repeal a major transportation funding package. That's after some of it, including a gas tax hike, was paused when critics got enough signatures to put it to voters this November. Catherine Cook has the update.
In an about-face, Governor Tina Kotek asked lawmakers to repeal the state's stopgap transportation funding package Wednesday, a package she fought to pass just 3 months ago during September's special session.
Well, look, we have a different situation. We still have a transportation crisis, and my job is to make sure we can get back to the table, solve the problem.
The transportation package was expected to raise about $4.3 billion over 10 years. It featured a 6-cent increase to the state's 40 cents per gallon gas tax, plus hikes to title and registration fees. Republicans panned the bill and launched a referendum, gathering enough signatures to put many of the fee increases to voters in November. Kotek's call to repeal her transportation package would remove that opportunity, angering Republicans like State Rep Shelley Bosshart Davis.
You know, there's 250,000 Oregonians that signed up to say we want to be able to vote on this. And so we kind of had an idea that shenanigans were going to happen, that there would be some sort of funny games going on.
As it stands, revenue provisions from the funding package are frozen because of the referendum. But ODOT's projected $300 million budget gap, that's still a problem.
And what I've been told is those dollars have to come out of ODOT's budget somehow. We're going to figure it out. These are hard conversations. There's nothing easy about this, but if we all work together, we'll figure it out.
Meanwhile, Republicans are doubling down on their argument that ODOT has enough existing funds to cover core costs without a massive transportation package.
But really, truly, ODOT is too big and too much to everyone, and we need to focus on maintenance and preservation as number one goal, and that's not currently happening.
Catherine Cook reporting there. Kotek says she plans to convene a bipartisan group of lawmakers and stakeholders to develop a transportation package for the 2027 legislative session. Speaking of funding, the Portland Trailblazers are expected to ask the state of Oregon to help with upkeeping the Moda Center. According to reporting out of the Oregonian, the organization is eyeing a $600 million renovation of the longtime arena in Portland's Rose Quarter with the help of state money. The Blazers are expected to ask lawmakers to redirect state income tax on players, team employees, and visiting players to Moda Center improvements instead of those tax dollars going into the state's general fund. Chad Dewing, host of Rip City Drive, calls this legislation critical to keeping the Blazers in Portland.
I think in the end, I think the local politicians here in the city and in the state will do what is necessary to put this team in a position where they can be here long term.
So this is similar to legislation Oregon lawmakers already passed last year. The Portland Diamond Project spearheaded that bill with the hopes of paving the way for a Major League Baseball franchise to potentially come to the Rose City. Portland police announced this past week that they have arrested the driver suspected of hitting and killing a tigered mother of 5. Alma McCarty spoke with a detective determined to solve the crime.
I'd always kept like a newspaper clipping.
That clipping affixed to the wall of a tigered police cubicle.
So I keep it at my desk, and it was just a reminder for me to make sure to follow up on anything that comes in.
Detective Casey Mace explains this was the longest open case she had. The hit-and-run death of Maria Negrete, a mother of 5.
I was really trying to make sure that I do my due diligence and get justice for the family.
Justice after so long without answers or even leads. Negrete died in the hospital 2 days after being hit by a car on Southwest Hall Boulevard, just north of Fawful Street on September 18th, 2023. Her family gathered there days later with this message for the driver.
He could have just stopped if it was an accident. He's just making it worse for himself. We just want justice for Maria.
More than 2 years on, investigators announced an arrest on New Year's Eve of 37-year-old Ashley Wolf. This after 2 breaks in the case.
In October of 2024, we had a tip come in that led us to the suspect vehicle.
Tigard police got a second tip in April 2025, corroborating evidence about who was behind the wheel of the car.
After that, we were able to do some more investigating, and ultimately we were able to forensically tie the vehicle to our victim.
Investigators emphasize how anonymous tips do make a difference.
Ultimately, that's what broke the case to us. If somebody has information, it's very important to let the police know.
Alma McCarty reporting there. In Salem on Wednesday, the community came out to both oppose and support a convicted murderer appointed to a police review board. A little background here. Former Governor Kate Brown granted Kyle Hedquist clemency. He was convicted of murder back in 1994 when he was 18 years old. Investigators say he shot his victim in the back of the head to keep her from telling police about some burglaries he'd committed. At a special meeting, city councilors and the public were sharply divided on whether Hedquist should be allowed to serve on the Community Police Review Board. You'll hear some opposition then from Hedquist himself.
Mr. Hedquist is a convicted murderer. While his life sentence was commuted, the life he stole was not. You cannot commute a victim back to existence. Yet some of this council saw fit to grant a man barred from volunteering at a school or even sitting in a police cruiser unless it's in the back the authority to oversee law enforcement.
The death of Nikki Thrasher is the gravity that pulls at everything I do. I ended her life, and I am forced to live with the agonizing math of that reality. I can never give enough, serve enough, or do enough to equal the life that I took. That debt is unpayable. But it is that same debt that drives me back into the community.
In the end, council voted to remove Hedquist from the review board and to adopt new criminal history background check guidelines for future appointments. In our first Common Threads story of the year, we are celebrating diversity in our community and featuring Gresham's new fire chief, the first Black fire chief in the department's history. Catherine Cook was at his swearing in.
For the city of Gresham.
For the city of Gresham.
To the best of my abilities.
To the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jeff Hairston is Gresham's first Black fire chief. Tuesday's swearing-in ceremony, surrounded by his family and community leaders from all over the region, was something Hairston never imagined 19 years ago when he became Gresham's first Black firefighter.
It's a privilege, honor. You don't want to wait till 2006 for it to happen, but I take it very seriously.
Hours before the ceremony, Hairston walked us through his office and back in time to some other firsts. His grandfather, Sam, the first Black player on the Chicago White Sox. His father, John, the first Black catcher on the Chicago Cubs. Hairston himself played ball for the Yankees and Pirates in the 90s. That was before he became a teacher and before he became a firefighter. His father is proud of him.
You know, it really didn't surprise me because he was a hard worker. He'd done things all his life, and he always had to not struggle, but work for it. See, it's the will of a person. It's not so much the skill or the speed or whatever. It's the will of a person.
Like Hairston's will to keep trying after a short stint with the Portland Fire Bureau. They let him go during academy. Hairston's not ashamed of that. He's proud of how he tried again and succeeded with Gresham. And he's proud of the example he's setting now.
The way that you conduct yourself, the way that you face adversity or even success determines on how people follow you and they model it.
It takes a lot to step forward. It's a difficult role to be in, to go from being one of the guys to being the leader of the guys and gals.
Assistant Chief Mike Traeger has been with Gresham for 37 years and watched Hairston rise through the ranks.
He has really excelled at being able to show that he has a vision and what he'd like to do.
Hairston is ready for all of it.
So one thing about me is you won't get a quitter. You'll find a guy that can figure a way.
Chief Hairston says his first focus out of the gate is to improve public outreach, to make sure firefighters get into more schools, visit apartment complexes, make sure places are as safe as they can be. He says the community and the people who live in it are his priorities. In Gresham, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
And in local sports headlines, WNBA legend Renee Montgomery is joining forces with the Sports Bra as an early investor. The two-time champion and Atlanta Dream vice president will also serve as strategic creative advisor for the world's first sports bar dedicated exclusively to women's sports. Founder Jenny Wynn says Montgomery's experience as both a player and executive makes her the perfect addition, as the Portland-based concept expands nationally with franchises planned for Boston, Indianapolis, Las Vegas, and St. Louis. Finally, safe and sound. Thanks to some Clatsop County firefighters, this pup got stuck overnight in a culvert outside of Astoria. It was down a steep ravine with a flowing creek. The Lewis and Clark Fire Department came out with a ladder and ropes to climb down to that pup. They were able to get it out of the ravine, warmed it up, and returned the dog to its owner. Love that happy ending. Now here's a look at your weather.
How about a dry Friday forecast from the Rose City? I'm meteorologist Rod Hill. That's what we have. And of course, our big headline is still kind of the rejoicing over all of the snow that has finally jump-started our snowpack season up on Mount Hood. This is one of our Timberline live cameras. You can see folks out there skiing and boarding. That is a 48-inch base is what they say they have up at Timberline Lodge. You stick a ruler down through all the snow, or a yardstick, and you'd come up with 48 inches of snow. And the reports are from 5,000 to 6,000 feet, Tuesday to Thursday. It was just over 30 to just over 40 inches of snow. Winds will be light up there today. It's really going to be a delightful day for folks going up to enjoy. Now, we do have snow-packed roadways, travel-wise, over all of the Cascade Passes this morning. But ODOT's been out plowing and plowing, and if you have changed in traction tires with no weather and not much wind, you're probably in good shape. The temperature early this morning is 30 degrees, and we do believe that the passes will all get above freezing today, so that will bring improving conditions for travelers as well. All right, so what's going on with our weather? Well, we're dry today. This storm, it looks like there it is, it's coming in. Well, no, it's not. There's actually a building ridge of high pressure. We're going to see some of these clouds spill in, so our forecast is kind of partly cloudy today. But there's no rain, and I don't think there's any rain even tomorrow here in Oregon, except for maybe the traceable amounts that look to be at least possible in places up around Astoria. Here we are this morning. We've got actually a lot of clear skies opening up out east, and we've had some clearing in parts of the valley this morning as well. Futurecast really shows the sun. Where you see the green map, that's the model going, hey, you don't have any clouds. Could be partly cloudy and not just sunny like this, but we'll see. Here are the thicker clouds, and there's the rain in green holding way out. Now I'm going to play this into Saturday. Here's Saturday afternoon. The modeling weakens that rain, throws some cloudiness, especially into the coastal areas, and a chance of some rain up around Astoria that may or may not happen. And if you look at this carefully, generally speaking, you're seeing all this rain have a tendency to just stay offshore from Oregon and then up to our north and push up into Washington and places like Seattle, where the rain chance looks to be pretty solid at times for the weekend, at least just from this Futurecast model. Now, if we play this into the rest of Sunday, it really does keep most of the rain kind of out around from us. I do believe, if you look at other models, there's a legitimate chance that Portland could get some rain inland at some point the PM hours of Sunday night, ending early Monday morning. Our cameras are showing mid to high level clouds and some thin spots. There's some folks walking on the beach this morning from Lincoln City, Schnuckwin's Casino Resort camera. Here's our state capitol. Cloudy skies up top, and we've had mostly cloudy skies with some breaks so far over downtown Portland. Temperatures should hit the low 50s today at the coast, and that's with a light wind. That's really nice weather. 40s to about 50 for highs today, up and down I-5. This is 3 o'clock this afternoon, showing 44 in Bend, and with snow on the ground, 40 in Sun River, and then temperatures only about 40 out on the east side. Here come our 7-day numbers. I have us dry today, 50, dry tomorrow, 51. Increasing the thickening cloud cover on Sunday that may or may not lead to some rain inland Sunday into Monday morning early. Other than that, no storm fronts and all dry on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week as we get back into a good old-fashioned what we call temperature inversion pattern.
Looking like some decent weather there. And that is a wrap on your weekly recap. I'm Christine Pitawanich. Remember, you can catch up on the latest headlines anytime on kgw.com, your KGW app, or our YouTube channel.